See, so I said 10 minutes late. I wasn't even 10 minutes late. All right, guys. If you looked it up, you cheated. He's making me use the microphone.
Very top button, top button.
I'm seeing it. There you go. I should have made him walk up. Wait, I can't get this, Jim. Help me out. Okay, because I made it up here, making it through every light, coupled with the fact that rarely do you get a chance to talk about this significance the way it happened today. For those of you that know my sister, that works for me now since Joanne isn't there, she has heart disease, okay? And last night she went in with chest pain, all right? So listen to what happens. I don't want to give away her age, she'll get mad at me, but she's over 70. So I'm going to pick a number. 75-year-old female with a history of coronary artery disease that has had 3 stents placed. Goes to the urgent care right by my office at the old Suburban General, okay? And what do they tell her? Oh, this could be serious. You better go down to Allegheny General Hospital, okay? I'm not supposed to say names, so forget I said urgent care in Allegheny General Hospital, okay? So, everybody follow me? So 75-year-old female with a history of coronary artery disease has chest pain in my office yesterday. And I can throw a stone, well, I used to be able to throw a stone to hit the urgent care. So she goes to the urgent care and they tell her, you gotta get to the hospital. This is too serious for us. So she travels down to, still in chest pain, travels down to the hospital. They give her some medicine for her chest pain, and they tell her, we're going to admit you, okay? So what did I teach everybody in here? What are you supposed to say? Am I being admitted or observation? So they tell her, observation. So what does she say? Send me home. And they say, we can't. This might be your heart. And she said, then admit me. Okay? So she texted me this at about, 12 o'clock last night. And I said, I'll pay for it. Shut up, go upstairs and get your heart taken care of, okay? So she's being cathed as we speak. But I want everybody to understand, everybody's hearing how wonderful this healthcare system is. It sucks, it's horrible. And you're gonna learn today the system, how it all happened, how we got to this point, and the tricks you have to learn. But you saw what happened to my own system. What was the next step, by the way, that you do? When they say, we can't send you home, we're gonna make you observation. What are you supposed to say?
The number on the back of your card, Medicare.
And please, guys, do that. You say to them, please call my Medicare representative, the numbers on the back of my insurance card. 100% of the time, they will admit you. Does everybody follow what I'm telling you? It's a ripoff, guys, and you need to know how to maneuver. So that's what today's all about. So this is why I wanted this lecture. Length of stay. Can anybody in this room, even if you're a doctor or a medical person, think of any reason why a length of stay would be anything relative to healthcare? The answer is no. There's no common sense, logical reason why the length of stay in the hospital should have any impact at all on your healthcare. Does everybody understand? But that's why I wanted to talk about this today, because this is the most important thing in healthcare today. And let me explain how we got to that, okay? What today's lecture is all about, or talk's all about, is me sharing personal experiences so you understand how we got here. And the way I'm gonna do it is my personal experience. I have 2 boys that are doctors, and I have a daughter that's a veterinarian. My wife is a doctor. My father was a doctor. I have a brother that's a doctor and a sister that's a doctor, okay? So I consider myself an expert in healthcare. I'm 4th generation because I have uncles and great-grandfather that were doctors. So I know medicine, I know the system, I know how that works. That's why I'm still independent, able to talk to you today. If I was owned, I'm not allowed to come up here and give an hour of this time because that hour they need of me to make money, not to come up and talk. So everybody understands, I'm giving you what I call the expertise of healthcare because I've been in it so long. All right? So, length of stay. In 2000, I'm trying to think of the year, 2015, I was called, I won't even bring up the hospital, Allegheny General. I was called to see the chief of medicine because my length of stay was too high. Does everybody follow what I'm saying? What's length of stay? Length of stay is the time that you're in the hospital under either Part A or Part B. And that happens when you go to the hospital and you have to sign a form, or your power of attorney has to sign a form. That's when the clock starts. So when the clock starts, there's a length of stay that is the most important thing. Why do I say the most important thing? I started practicing medicine, let's just say I did things in the 70s at St. John's, first hospital I closed. 7 since then. The last hospital I just closed is Ohio Valley Hospital. And what is that? That's the ripoff of the healthcare system. These are community assets. I'm still on the board at Suburban General Hospital. That place was built in 1894, and in 1894, when it was built, the people in the community that were making $5 a week were giving up to $1 a week to put that place together. And it's an excellent hospital. I'm still there. Unfortunately, they don't provide medical services anymore, but I'm on the board. So once again, I'm giving you my experience to explain all this so you understand. So what happens? When I started practicing in 1990 at St. Francis Hospital, we had what we called stand-up mornings. And what would happen in the morning is at 7:15. Why 7:15? Because at 7 o'clock when you came into the hospital, the RN was signing out to the RN that was coming in. What does that mean? They had a tape recorder. For any of the RNs in here, you know how it works. They had a tape recorder, and they had a list of all the patients. And they taped every single patient experience on that shift. Mrs. Jones had her breakfast, or Mrs. Jones had her supper. She ate well, she moved her bowels, she felt fine, she didn't need anything for sleep, she went to bed at 9 o'clock, she slept all night, she looks good this morning. And they did that with every single patient. Does everybody follow me? So that's the standard of care in 1990. Charge nurse to charge nurse. LPN to LPN. Aide, the aide signed out to the aides. Like, oh, Mr. So-and-so had diarrhea, I don't know what he ate, but he's gonna be bad tonight, so you better watch him. Or Mrs. Jones had a fever and she's feeling, the aides signed out. Everybody follow me? So at 7:15, the new staff that came in had just heard about the old, like what was happening on the other shift, and we had a stand-up meeting. What does that mean? You stood up, everybody in a circle, and you talked about the case. And what did you talk about? The illness, the disease that they came in with. Mr. Jones had his gallbladder out. He was in a lot of pain, doc. Do you think we can get him pain medication this morning? And of course, I had Joanne standing right beside me. So what would my answer be? Yes, and poor Joanne's writing down real quick because she has to do everything. All right, so what happens is that's the standard of care in 1990. So what happens after the 7:15 to 7:30 meeting? Well, I was blessed. Dr. Potter, who was my mentor, we shared an accountant. I bought his practice down at McKnight off of him. And when I came in, the first thing he said to me was, what's your schedule? 1990. I said, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, I see patients. I go, what do you mean? 1990. He He said, you're Catholic, aren't you? I said, yeah. He goes, you go up to Vincentian and you tell them you want to run the nursing home. 1990 nursing homes. I'm going, what are you talking about? What do you mean run the nursing home? He was well-read, he was independent because he didn't trust the government, and he knew changes in healthcare were coming. What were the changes? Instead of staying in the hospital until you're well, they start sending you to nursing homes, and they call them skilled nursing units. What's skilled about it? Nothing. What happened? Medicare felt they were losing money in the hospitals, so they came up with this concept to put you into nursing homes called skilled care. So once again, I knew nothing about it. So I go up to Vincentian, I meet with Sister Ann, and within 7 or 8 months, because the one doc had a stroke, the other one had prostate cancer, so I became the medical director at Vincentian in 1991, okay? So while there, what he taught me was, these patients in a nursing home, you see 25 for an admission. In your office, 250 for an admission. So back in the 90s, the hospital was where you made your money. So he had me change my schedule to Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, I went to nursing homes. Tuesday night, Thursday night, Saturday, I saw patients. I still have that schedule today. I have patients tonight till 9 o'clock. And he taught me that I'd always have patients because the working man or woman needed that schedule in order to be seen. 9 to 5 doesn't work. And you'll be the busiest doctor in town if you go to the nursing homes and do what I'm telling you to do. This is 1991. 1992, I had the largest practice in Pittsburgh. Does everybody follow me? I'm an expert at this, guys. I know what's going on. So I went from Vincentian. I don't want to talk about the names. From here on out, I'm not going to mention the names. But I went from a nursing home and I got thrown out. Why did I get thrown out? My partner wrote for a medicine called Cytotec. If you haven't heard of it, it stops the acid production and coats the stomach to protect you so you don't get gastritis or ulcer disease. Because she had a patient that had spinal stenosis and they were going through to get their back operated on. So she writes Cytotec, 50 micrograms, Q-day. The nursing home gave her Cytoxan. Cytoxan is chemotherapy, okay? Her patient, not mine, I get called, Dr. Coppola, the patient's losing her hair, she wants to know why. And up until that point, no one knew it was the wrong medicine. So I go in to see her, she was losing her hair, I'm thinking thyroid, I look at the note and it says Cytotec, and then I look at the order sheet and I see that it says Cytoxan. So I went in and honestly told the patient what happened. I was contacted and told to change my note. I wouldn't change my note. I got thrown out. So then I ended up medical director of another nursing home, not even a mile away. And so I go to that nursing home, and I was pretty impressed because top shelf, very nice place, and we had 12 nurses, 7 to 3:30. Well, what happened was a system called PPS, Prospective Payment System, came out in 1997. Okay, so what happens? Now all of a sudden, instead of having, with the director of nursing, etc., I had 15 nurses daily. When PPS hit, it went to 2 nurses and 10 new grads, LPNs. And no offense to anybody that's an LPN and not an RN, but there's a big difference. Does everybody follow me? So my experience from 90 to 97, I became the largest practice in Pittsburgh, a medical director, left one place, medical director at another place, and all of a sudden I see there's a change in the delivery system. 1997. Why did it happen? Remember I told you, Dr. Potter gave me the insight that because Medicare doesn't want to pay the hospital cost, they're going to put people in nursing homes and give the nursing homes the opportunity to put together skilled nursing units so that they can get paid by Medicare to take care of these patients. Does everybody understand the concept? You have to understand this, guys. So what happens? Speech therapy sends a bill, physical therapy sends a bill, occupational therapy sends a bill. What does Medicare find out in 1996? Oh my goodness, we can't afford this. This is costing us too much money. So what do? PPS stands for bundling of services. Anybody heard the term? What does that mean? They throw one check on the table, you fight for it. Does everybody understand the concept? So an idea that kicked off in the early 90s, say 91, already there's flaws in it in 97, and then how does the system change? 15 RNs to 10 LPNs. Okay? Does everybody understand that? It gets worse, guys. We're just starting. This is the 90s. Okay? So, what I want you to understand and how this all works, I'll put some some terminology so we get it. And then we'll refer back to this. So skilled nursing units and then PPS so far. All right? And once again, I went from one nursing home to another. And again, why did they make me medical director, by the way? Why do I become medical director? I have all the patients. Does everybody understand that concept? You're going to see how this all happened, guys. So through this process, we're now in the late 90s. I'm medical director. It was a 227-bed facility, and I loved it. We were doing wonderful things. It was exciting for me. We had an oncology unit where we were giving chemotherapy. I put together MAPAN, Mid-Atlantic Post-Subacute Network. I had all the consultants coming into the nursing homes so the patients didn't have to go out. I had Dr. Stupai, who's probably the best rheumatologist in Pittsburgh to this day, coming in there. Dr. Wapinski, who invented the PET scan, coming in there. Dr. Schabel, who runs UPMC's pulmonary department. If you go to the ICU, he's going to take care of you, coming in there. So we had a wonderful thing going, but we started to see Medicare couldn't afford what they put together. What happened? Everybody left. So the first exodus of physicians practicing the way we wanted to was right around 99, 2000 because of the rule changes. So everybody understands that, all right? So I walk on the floor. I'm allowed to put Suburban because it closed. So Suburban General Hospital, the patient or the nurse that took care of me that day is still my patient. I'll call her Betty. So I walk onto the floor. And again, guys, I had 40 people in the hospital at a time. And so you would sit down with the charge nurse. She sat there, I sat there, all 40 patients we face-to-face talked about. Joanne was with me, and a lot of times I'd be late, and Joanne would have got the sign out from the nurse. But Joanne's a nurse practitioner that's a provider. So everybody understands the concept. So 2001, I walk on the floor, and again, you have 40 patients, so you're grabbing all your charts, getting ready for the nurse. And I go, hey, it was a priest. I go, hey, where's Father Ducata's chart? And they say, oh, the case manager has it. I said, who? And I'm serious, guys. I never heard the term before. So 2001, I walk on the floor to get my charts, my patient's charts, and let me tell you about that. The reason I don't round at passive in hospital anymore, 1995, Mr. Wilson comes in my office with classic appendicitis. I'm seeing patients, so I couldn't go up to the hospital, so I called the hospital. Dr. Coppola sending Robert Wilson to the hospital. I think he has appendicitis. You know, get me the surgeon on call and I'll see him later. I leave my office. I go up onto the floor where he's at. I see the patient. I grab the chart. I write a note. I got thrown off staff for 2 weeks. That wasn't my chart. The emergency room didn't give the information to the doctor. Okay? Dr. Lynn Weigel was his name. And so Dr. Weigel was the owner of the case because his name was on the chart. So without a consult, I wrote on the chart. That was the discipline. 2 weeks, I got thrown off staff. So that ticked me off, and I haven't practiced there since. But the bottom, Dr. Jagiello's there. But the bottom line was, That's how serious patient-physician relationships are. Is everybody with me? He didn't even know the guy, but once he made contact, not knowing it was my patient, he now owns that chart. And I can't touch it unless there's a consult. Everybody understands that concept? All right, so I walk on the floor, and they tell me the case manager has my chart. The doctor's space to work back then was a room, it was L-shaped, about this big. And we had a desk and phones. There were like 6 or 7 phones, no computers back then, okay? So I go, what's the case manager? And they say, oh, didn't you hear about managed care? I said, what? Managed care. I said, what's managed care? Well, the way it worked out was the case manager reviewed the chart to see if, per insurance company's checklist, the case was being managed correctly. Okay? So I leave where I was. Oh, and she goes, and she's in her office. Okay? So I leave where I was. I walk down the hall in this beautiful office. And I'm talking, it was unbelievable. Desk and chairs and a little conference table. And she had all these charts on a rack. And I walked in, I said, excuse me, can I get my chart? Oh, Dr. Coppola, how are you? I said, fine, thanks. We said hello, her name was Dorothy. And I said, I need my chart. Oh, I'll be done with it in a minute. That's what she said to me. And I said, okay, I have other charts, just bring it out to me. So I finished all the rounds, saw the 40 patients, that chart still wasn't there. So when I went back, she said to me, oh, I'm sorry, we ran into a problem. He needs to have, she went on to explain what we needed to do for the case. And I said, listen, I'm just gonna do what I wanna do with this, and then we'll go from there. You can't, Dr. Coppola. What do you mean you can't? And that's when she called me a PCP. I had never heard that term. And I go, what did you call me? She said, well, you're the PCP. What? I said, what's a PCP? You're the primary care physician. And so again, I'm giving you the blow by blow of what happened because you need to know how this happened. The system was fine. And what did they say for managed care? This is so that more people get insurance and the cost of health care comes down. That's their constant mantra. Well, the first hospital I closed was St. John's on the north side on McClure Avenue. And for those that you didn't know, back in those days, the doctors that were on staff had to give 2 free days a month care. And it was on the Hubbard Clinic that was run by Mrs. Gleason, and all you had to do was get off your butt and walk in and sign your name, and you were seen. So this idea that there's no health care in America is BS. When I was on staff at Suburban, I gave 2 free days a month. To be on staff, part of the requirements were you provided care to the indigent in the community that didn't have the money to do so. Does everybody follow me? So you got to pay attention to what you're hearing because it's BS. So here we are now. I didn't argue with her, but once I found out that I was the PCP and she was the case manager, at the next staff meeting, I brought it up. Well, back in those days, let's say 30 to 40 cases I had. The average PCP had 3 to 5. Okay? So they didn't feel my pain. From their end, hey, the nurse practitioner takes, or the case manager takes care of everything. She talks to the family, she gets all this information. Well, guess what? We used to call that social service. And the social service person knew everything about the patient before you even walked in. And you could ask her any questions, they knew. Well, now, social service was out of that realm. They moved them into the case management. So everything became manage the case for the patient or for the dollar. Which one do you think? The dollar, okay? So now, what I'm seeing happening in healthcare, and we're gonna say now, this is say 2000 till 2005. That was about how long it ran. You had managed care with the case manager And now what happened at Rounds? The circle, remember we called it stand-up rounds. Now what did you talk about? Length of stay. To this day, stand-up rounds in any hospital in the city of Pittsburgh. You don't talk about the disease. You don't talk about what happened last night. You don't talk about how the patient is doing. You talk about how many days has the patient been in the hospital and when are they being discharged. And if the nurse says, well, I don't know, the doctor hasn't come in, you call that office. We want that patient out by 1 o'clock. This is reality, guys. This is, and again, this is 2005, okay? So, what happens? I played the game for about 1 week. And what am I talking about? The case I got disciplined from, it was actually a good case. The patient lived on the north side. Her husband was in the hospital with a heart attack, and he had bypass. And they had one of those houses, it was like 3 stories and real steep steps. And she fell down the last 2 and twisted her ankle. So she didn't drive. She would walk over to the hospital or catch a ride to see her husband, right? So when I come in, he said, my wife isn't here yet. Can I stay till tomorrow? So what do I say? Yes. What happens? Demerit. You know, so that was a strike against me that I let the patient stay. And you heard the story. If she didn't twist her leg, she'd have gone over and picked her husband up, no problem. In fact, she twisted her ankle. She asked us for another day because she had to try to get a ride. All right, so when I say I get dinged, I'd say, what was the year? 2000, I'm gonna say 15. So my compliance of 1 week coupled with my demerits, I'll put demerits, led to I would not be able to round on what they call high acuity patients. So that means if the patient came in with a heart attack, congestive heart failure, COPD exacerbation, I couldn't manage those. But I could manage pneumonia, I could manage cellulitis, and I did that for a while, but then it kind of got to the point where it wasn't a good situation because the patients would hear them in the hospital. Dr. Koppel, you didn't come to see me, and I heard your name over the PA. So I quit rounding at AGH. So the only place I physically round right now is at Swickley Hospital. It used to be also Heritage Valley Kennedy, but they recently closed that. I think they closed that in March. So what we come back to now is I gave you the blow-by-blow of what happened to me to that point. I told you my wife was a doctor, is a doctor. AGH, West Penn. What's the name of the place now? It's UPMC place downtown, Presby. They had what are called NICUs, neonatal ICUs. This is for premature babies, okay? In the year 2017, they changed it to 2 NICUs. My wife worked at the one at Allegheny General, so they all lost their jobs, okay, because they changed the system. What does that mean? These were running to maximum efficiency, all making money, all well-staffed, but when AHRF changed to Highmark, they decided this shuts down and this goes to West Penn. Why and how does that work? Well, now it's being run by accountants, and what the accountants look at is you shouldn't have duplicate services this close together, okay? I just had the same thing happen. I told you Heritage Valley, Kennedy closed down. Initially, they just took services away. Like we could do catheterizations, we could do all kinds of things 10 years ago. Well, they took all that away, so what you end up with is less and less you can do. And that's how they determine it, that the system now owns that facility, and they determine that those services aren't necessary, okay? The only reason I'm giving you that is to explain where we are today, guys. This, like I said, was 2016. So, what happens now, and I'll go 2021. And pre-auth. And again, how do I know this stuff, guys? I'm telling you, this is personal experience. When my wife left Allegheny General, she signed on with Highmark as a physician reviewer. What does that mean? That means if you have a managed care insurance that requires pre-authorization, she was the one to authorize. So let's say you want to have, I want you to have an MRI because your back still hurts and the CAT scan didn't show me enough. They determine whether you get the MRI. Does everybody understand that concept? You need to understand that. What are they in place for? To save money. Does everybody understand the concept? A certain number of calls got denied every day. Does everybody understand how that works? So let's go back through 2000 to 2000. Here you go, we'll use this one. We'll go 2005 to 2020. For 15 years. What would have to happen is I would have to get pre-approval. How did that change my practice? I was used to saying to the patient, oh, okay, I think it's your back. We're gonna get a scan of your back and we'll go from there. And then I see the scan has narrowing. So I say, okay, we're gonna get an MRI and then I'll follow you up in the office. Well, this hindered that because I couldn't do that anymore. Now what I had to do was I had to say, sorry guys, that's my bookie, big game coming up. So what I have to say is, okay, Mrs. Jones, we're gonna get the MRI when your insurance company approves it. So it changed my practice pattern. You had to now, because the system, you had to get approval. Does everybody understand that concept? All right. So now what happens, we get into accountable, that's what the ACO stands for. Accountable Care Organization. Accountable, spelling it wrong. What happens when you don't know how to spell things and you're a doctor? You scribble. I'm a scribble, that's organization, all right? Everybody, that's what we do, I'm telling you, see, I'm being honest with you, okay? Oh man, this must be a good bookie now. All right, so we talked about the accountable care organizations before, but I have to give you what they are so you understand. So I've walked you through healthcare, and by the way, guys, it's still fun. It's still the best healthcare. I can't say it in the world because I trained at Hopkins in Baltimore. They're better than UPMC, Presby, and AGH, but you got excellent healthcare. So I'm not ripping on what you have available to you. I'm just giving you personally what I saw happen. And remember, we're going to finish up with length of stay because it's the most important thing in this equation. So what happens now, 2021, it became law. What does that mean? Well, here's what it means to me. As I told you, there's many docs in my family, and I have 2 boys right now. My son Tony's in Virginia working as a hospitalist. My son Matt's in Chicago doing a sub-internship in cardiovascular medicine. Neither one of them know anything about an accountable care organization. And if you came to my lecture, you know about it, but if you didn't, you don't know about an accountable care organization. So what happens? It's not transparent. No one's telling you the truth or the facts. And that's what's so frustrating to me, because guess who owns Medicare? We do. No one understands that. And why are we in this jam? And I want the truth. Who in this room read their whole insurance policy, healthcare insurance policy? Good, no one. I tell the story, I was with 250 chaplains at the Society of Chaplains in 1998. No one. No one read it. That's why we're in this jam. No one knows what insurance that they have, and no one knows their Medicare rights. So the people that run it do anything they want, when they want, and how they want. And all they're doing is making money, making money, making money. They don't care about the rest. So back to where we are. The accountable care organization, like all these things, it happens in a room like this with experts. Who are the experts? Hospital administrators, lawyers, people that own durable medical equipment, people that are in the business of healthcare, and then what we call public health doctors. And for any of you that are one or know one, I don't want to be rude or indignant, but they're the people that really couldn't take care of patients in medical school. Like they were the people that didn't have the ability on their own to go see the patient, take care of the patient completely. They always needed help. But they're experts in healthcare. I don't know how it happens. I see 20, 30 patients a day and have for the last 35 years. But what I say doesn't matter because I'm independent. Does everybody follow that? So when I'm at a meeting, they kind of listen to me, but they don't listen to me. So back to what's an accountable care organization. I have to tell the story about how I knew managed care was coming. Hindsight. I didn't know it till I walked on and the case manager was there. But when I was in residency in Baltimore, I worked, you're on every other night. I worked on the 31st or the 30th of June, and then I was on the 2nd of July. On the 30th of June, I admitted a patient with pneumonia. So I get down in the emergency room, I look at the chest x-ray, lady's coughing up sputum, I examine her, I write the note, write the antibiotic orders, go to bed. On July the 2nd, I get called at 1 o'clock in the morning, Dr. Koppler, you have to come down and do a gram stain. And I said, I haven't done a gram stain since medical school. Well, you have to do a gram stain on the sputum. And I said, no thanks, and I hung up. So I got a call from my chief resident, and I can't tell you what he said to me, can't repeat it, but it was essentially, you get down and do that gram stain or you're out. So I get down and I do a gram stain. What happened is, this was the start of the process that they look at, and it's called a DRG. Everybody heard that term? Diagnostic Related Guidelines. And then we'll talk about ICD code as well. Once again, we, the docs, were sold on this is how we're going to make healthcare available to everybody, and everybody's going to get a cheaper price. The reality was, this was the start of Accountable Care Act, okay? The Accountable Care Act, coupled with AI, if you have a doctor that's computerized, they know everything about you. Okay, me, they can't read my writing. So if you're my patient, they don't know anything about you. Unless you see a doctor that they call it a matrix, okay? So you have a matrix on file, and that matrix gives them all the information that they need to know. So with that matrix, when you go to the emergency room, that's how they decide whether you're getting admitted or made observation. Does everybody understand the concept? Who gets admitted? Good old red, white, and blue Medicare card. If you have the red, white, and blue medical card, I can give you a prescription for an MRI. It's 1:45. You can go get it right now. Sorry guys, everybody follow me? Like, that's how it works. Dar's not in the office. Should stop all that from me. But what happens is, people don't know that. What do? They listen to the television. What does the television say? You'll get free this, free that. You'll get free this, free. Everybody knows. Grandma taught us. You don't get anything in this life for free. But what happens? Everybody follows, what do they spend? I forget the numbers, ridiculous. How many billions of dollars are spent on mailings to Medicare recipients so that you try to switch to their managed care program and they give you a reason for it. I'm here to tell you that if you get the regular Medicare card and you have to get a supplement, I think they used to call it Medigap or something, and get a cheap one, because you don't need the expensive, you just need that secondary to pick up the 20% that the government doesn't pick up. With that card and the secondary insurance, anywhere, same day. Anywhere, same day. What does that mean? You could be in Spain and you get it. Does everybody follow me? That's the value of that card. And you own the company, you just don't know it yet. All right? So what happened with the Accountable Care Organization? I'll put over here pre-auth ACOs. Remember what I told you? You had to get authorized, let's say, for that MRI, okay? So in 2021, ACOs become the standard in healthcare. Who knew it? No one in this room knew it. My children that are being trained in healthcare didn't know it. There's a lot of doctors to this day don't even know it. But accountable care organizations are the doctors and the insurance company are together. Does everybody follow me? What does that mean? Well, that means if I own you, I tell you what to do. Well, what does that mean? There's a standard of care. I was taught under what's called differential diagnosis. What does that mean? If someone comes in with chest pain, you have to go through in your mind and write it down and review the 15 causes of chest pain. What do they do now? They say, it could be bronchitis. 80% chance it could be bronchitis. So what I trained with was chest pain centers in every emergency room, so within 24 hours we checked what we needed and then let them go home. Now, they don't do anything. EKG. Why? Remember what I told you. The docs and the insurance companies are working together. It's actually a partnership. They are partners in this accountable care organization. So what's occurred since 2021? Less services ordered. Does that save you money? Where do you see? Where do I tell you what it does? All right, so what occurs? I had a patient, we'll call her Mrs. Jones. 94-year-old, lived in Bellevue, taking a shower. She falls and she hits, this is called the superior orbital bone. On the shower nozzle or on the shower dial, she hits her head there, breaks that bone. They find out because they do an x-ray. She passes out, okay? Goes to the hospital. What did they tell her? You have a break on this bone. See your PCP within 48 hours, and they sent her home, okay? Why? How were we trained? Would have got an MRI. Why? Unwitnessed fall in someone over 65 years old, you don't know what's in there. And she broke the bone. If she hits it hard enough to break the bone, could she be bleeding? Yes. So you do that's how we were taught. What did they do? It's called Glasgow score. They look in the eyes. Pupils are equal. She doesn't have any blood. It is a clinical sign. And 50 years ago, when we didn't have the diagnostic tools to do it, the other thing they might do is a spinal tap. Because if there's blood in the spinal tap, then you are bleeding. They didn't do a spinal tap. Okay, does everybody follow that? So now that the doctors and the insurance companies are together, what happened? This was 21. In 2023, the pre-auth job my wife had for 15 years, she had a 40-second phone call. There were 15 docs that did this downtown Pittsburgh. And they called them up and they were on the phone for 40 seconds. And it went something like, please understand Your service has been stellar. It's not about your service, it's about the direction that the company's going into now. We no longer need your services. If you wish to stay with Highmark, stay on the phone. 40 seconds, hangs up. So what does that mean? The projections were 2021 to 2026, 5 years, 26. They gave it 60 months. They thought before they can initiate it kind of globally, if you will. What happened? She gets fired because by 23, 2 years, they had success. What kind of success? Little hospital I told you about that I work at, Heritage Valley Kennedy, 2022, split. The doctors that were signed up, I'm not, split $79 million. Let me repeat that. Little 100-bed hospital, the old Ohio Valley, called Heritage Valley Kennedy. Their accountable care organization split $79 million. Does everybody see where I'm at? This is the reality, guys. This is what's going on. And not only, here's what frustrated me. It's okay, it's not okay you don't know. Believe me, I think everybody should know. But from my vantage point, I can see why you don't know. The doctors that are currently being trained, and my son who's done but was trained over the last 4 or 5 years, have no clue of any of this. And how does it start? They call it a pilot program. Remember when I got the stains, because I had to do the, look at the smears on the sputum, okay? When I had to do the gram stain, same concept. It was a pilot program. I was down at Greater Baltimore Medical Center, an affiliate of Hopkins, and that's where they did the pilot. And what did they show? What did they do the antibiotic in the emergency room for? Why did they do the gram stain? To try to pick it in the emergency room. Why? Get you out of the hospital a day earlier. Does everybody follow the concept? All right. So all this stuff happened. It's 2024. I think it was January. And what I found was service changed again. Remember I told you 15 nurses down to 10 LPNs? So now I'm in personal care homes, I'm in psych units, I'm in different places, and what I'm seeing is nurses, and I'm not ripping on people, this isn't a cut to anybody, and I'm just sharing with you the changes. Nursing assistants need a certification that they can get at a nursing home. My son Tony, good story. I was an orderly, okay? So when my son Tony got into his junior year of medical school, he goes, Dad, I want to be like you, I want to be an orderly. I said, they don't make those anymore. He goes, well, what can I do? I said, you want to be a certified nurse assistant? He goes, okay. So I still have friends at Vincentian. I call Vincentian. He goes to Vincentian, gets certified in 4 weeks. And funny story, he called me up. He goes, Dad, I went to night shift because they gave me an extra 12 cents an hour. I said, good, how you liking it? He goes, Dad, I have to give a lady a bath tomorrow. And I go, all right, put your eyes on her eyes, don't stop talking, and everything will be fine. He calls me a week later. He goes, Dad, all I do is baths now. So I'm just doing baths at night and they're paying me for it. But the bottom line is, that's all it takes for certification, okay? Certified nursing assistants can take a similar 6-week course to be certified to pass medicines. Is everybody with me? They call them technicians. Does everybody follow what I'm telling you? So back in 97, I saw 15 nurses go to 10 LPNs, and now I'm watching, and again, I'm not ripping on phlebotomy, okay? That was a training from the pathologist that ran the lab. Now, housekeepers are becoming phlebotomists, okay? So again, am I ripping on the housekeeper stepping up? Not at all. Am I ripping on the nursing aide stepping up? Not at all. Just from where I sit, I don't want a nursing aide that's certified after she does, what is it, a total of 10 weeks? After 10 weeks, I don't want her passing medicines on my mother. What I used to do when I was medical director, I won't name the nursing home, on Fridays at 2:30, I invited the whole staff in. And from another nursing home, because I took care of 2 of them at the same company, I would bring in the admission orders. And this is when I started. These were the 15 RNs. And I would pass them out. Every day, nurses had no idea the medication. Nurses, you with me? Certified techs, all they do is match it up on the computer. I give you this one, I give you this one. Is everybody with me? You have to understand how the system has changed. And what I'm talking about and why is, like I said, what just happened to my sister. 75-year-old with heart disease that had 3 stents, comes in with chest pain to the urgent care, was told to go to the hospital because it could be serious, gets there, still in pain, and they made her observation. And she was fighting with them, but she's having chest pain. So I told her, stop, I'll pay the bill, whatever the hell it is. But the point is, if you go, and I hope none of you have to, but statistically you will, you make sure you're admitted. Do not allow observation. There's no need for it. All right, so now to the topic. All that I had to give you guys, sorry about that. Length of stay. I see where it is, Jim, I'll get it. Length of stay. All right, this is what I think is wild. 2 midnights. You guys don't have to worry here, because you're here. So you don't have to have any of this I'm going to talk about. But if you didn't, if you go to the hospital and you get admitted, you have to be in 2 midnights for your skilled nursing benefits to kick in. Is everybody with me? It used to be, if you were in the hospital for 3 days, it triggered for 21 days. And then they changed all that with managed care. And if you didn't read your insurance policy, you don't even know what you have. I see some of them, like every 2 days, you have to get recertified. So read your policy. Well, you don't have to worry, you're good. But my point is, anybody else you know that's not in a CCRC, make sure that they know, read your insurance policy so you do know. So what we find is that the length of stay is the most important thing. And there's rounds in the morning regarding your length of stay. When you sign the paper or your advocate signs the paper, the clock starts. And what we have to do in our notes is document the length of stay. Like it's one of those things in the computer, like when you hit it. So I put in there NA, not applicable, because I'm not owned. I can still keep you in for 10 days. But the point still comes back to, this is the standard of care today. And so what's the most important thing? When you come into the hospital, the clock starts on the length of stay. And they look at their grids. These are grids, or templates. So if you come in with congestive heart failure, you got to see the cardiologist within this period of time. You got to make sure your weight goes down within this part of time. And what happens? The length of stay, and I'm gonna scribble because I can't spell it. It's recidivism. Okay? What's recidivism? That's a return to the hospital within a week. What happens if that happens? We'll use ABC, that's what we're gonna call the hospital, so I quit getting in trouble. Okay, so ABC Hospital, you go in, your length of stay was 2.8 days. They're upset because it was supposed to be 2.4. You go to the skilled nursing unit, and why do you go there? Remember when my doc told me about it in 1990 that they were gonna set him up? Guess what? The people that put this together knew in 1990 that we'd be here. And so what happens? They get him out. You know how many times I hear when I'm seeing a new patient? Yeah, they sent my mother home too early. She was still short of breath. Well, guess what? They have contracts with the skilled nursing units. They can send them to the skilled nursing units. And there's doctors there that are seeing the patient. And guess what? If you're in these networks, you can't be sued. Does everybody follow me? So the length of stay, you go to the skilled, if you bounce back with the recidivism, the hospital, no money. They don't get paid. Why you need to know this is to make sure that you know what you can do to prevent it. I just had it happen. I had a gentleman that had a large inguinal hernia. His colon was down in his scrotum. And so he had trouble urinating and he had trouble moving his bowels. They wouldn't do the surgery because he had broken his hip about a month before and he was too weak to even move around, so they were afraid. So we got him in the inpatient rehab unit. And what our goal was to gain weight and to get him up and moving. So we got all that taken care of. Guess when the surgery is? October. Why am I bringing that up? Through this whole process, if ABC Hospital owns you, they own you. What does that mean? Your schedule's done. Complete. What does that mean? There's no wiggle room for you to put anybody in. Okay? I still see patients every half hour. And the staff knows if someone has to get in, you stick them in there. And my patients know if I'm running behind, I'm either late, it was Joanne's fault, or we added a patient in there. Okay, so process is process. You have to understand what you're up against. I think I heard the data in Pennsylvania, specifically Pittsburgh, is something like 96% of the doctors are owned. So you have to understand, they have the doctors. We used to go to hospitals, nursing homes, and our office. Well, once you're owned, they want you where they can get the maximum money. Where's that? It's doing wellness evaluations. When I do a wellness, I get maybe 150 bucks. When they do a wellness, they get $350. Why? Because they're computerized and they know all the stuff and check all the boxes. So the doctors that have been taking care of you for 30 years know you the best, know you'll come in to see them. That's what they have those doctors doing. So they spend all day seeing wellnesses because that makes the most money for the system. So if you can't see Dr. Jones, who you want to see, till February, it's because they're busy. You just need to know the system is who puts their schedule together. They can't modify their schedule. All right, so back to length of stay. And you have to put the ACO over here. And back to 90% of the time you go through the emergency room. We used to be able to do direct admissions. I still can't. What's the direct admission? I call the doctor that's running the house and I say, I just did it last Thursday. I have Mrs. Jones in my office. She can't take a deep breath. I'm afraid it's her heart. So I send the patient in. She ended up, she had a heart attack, but she's well because she got in there soon enough. But the point is that how this all works is I directly admitted her because I knew she was sick. If you're owned, you can't do that. So you have to go to the ER. When you go to the ER, you don't get admitted with a length of stay if you're made observation. Does everybody understand? I had to go through this whole thing with you guys so you understand how this all happened. So once again, I'll go back to my sister. 75-year-old with heart disease, has 3 stents. My office is right beside Suburban General. She goes to the urgent care. Oh, honey, I think you're having trouble. You got to get to the hospital. She goes to the hospital. They don't admit her, and she's having a cath as we speak. Does everybody follow me? That's not transparent. That's not telling you what's going on. And the bottom line is, if they admit her into the hospital, so we'll put admit, the timer is on, and they don't want you in 2 midnights, because then your benefits kick in and cost them money. If your observation, and by the way, this is part A and this is part B. So what does that mean? You could have copays and deductibles. And once again, no length of stay. That's why they want you in observation. That's why they do everything they can. How do you combat it? We talked about this, guys, and it works 100% of the time. I'm going to put this up here. You ask the nurse to call your Medicare rep. The phone number is on the back of your Medicare card. And I kind of wish my sister would have gone through it last night, but she was having chest pain still, and it was midnight, and I said, just quit arguing, just go up to observation. But that's the whole point, guys, that if they would have had to admit her, and now she's having a catheterization. She got there yesterday early in the morning. They stuck her up in a room, that was definitely, should have qualified to go to skill. And that's what they want. They don't want to pay the benefit. Ooh, man, my bookie must be mad at me, guys. Sorry about that. Please understand this, though. The way this works is it's a process that was set up by accountants and public health doctors. And once again, if you are one or no one, I'm not ripping on them. I'm just telling you, they're the ones that have time. They're the ones that sit in the room with everybody else. And once you get a kickback, once you're getting money, you're owned. Like, they own you. They tell you what to do. You have no say in it at all. I had an experience, it's my cousin. They sold out. He's a pediatrician. And I have a nurse practitioner working with me now, student, and she needed pediatrics. And he's a pediatrician. His name's Bill, William Coppola. So I call him up. Hey, Bill, blah, 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 blah. I say, hey, I need a favor, what's up? I said, I have this girl, she's gotta get her peds. If she does that, she graduates early, I can have her working for me in no time. He goes, I sold out. I'm with UPMC, they don't allow that. I said, ooh. I said, how about if they work with your nurse practitioners? So that was our loophole, that she's gonna follow the nurse practitioner instead of the doc. So even my blood, my cousin, owned by the system, can't do me a favor. Does everybody follow what I'm telling you? Please know what's going on with your health care, guys. Please pay attention and understand this is your way. Please understand that. And I had, oh my goodness, it first started in an LTAC. We don't have a whole lot of LTACs anymore. That's long-term acute care. And what it stands for is, it's costing too much money in the hospital, but you're on a ventilator or you're real sick, so that's why they send you to the LTAC. Does everybody understand this concept? Sorry it took so long for me to get it all out to you, but this is how it all came to be. And please understand, do not be made observation. There's no reason for you to be made observation. So what you want to do is ask them nicely. My sister did get the copy, because what I said to her, I said, all right, here's what you do. When that nurse comes back in, you just say to the nurse, can I please have a copy of the notes that you just wrote? So when I call my insurance company to, get this money paid for me, I want to be able to have that listed. And she said, what do you mean? And that's when she repeated, 75-year-old with triple vessel disease that had all this stuff done, went to the urgent care, they told her to go to the hospital, and they did not admit her They made her observation. And again, now look at it from, if I own the place, well, observation's the best. If my sister has to stay 5 days, she's paying co-pays and deductibles, not costing me anything. If she gets discharged and comes back in, it's not recidivism, so we're still gonna get paid for it. Does everybody understand? So that's how it's set up. And again, guys, I didn't even get a chance, and it's so late, we'll do it another time. But the DRGs and the ICD codes, it's all set up so that they know everything about you. Is that bad? No, I mean, we don't necessarily have anything to hide, but based on that matrix is how they make decisions. And it's not gonna affect you, but it may affect me. If they find that I drink too much alcohol, or I'm too fat, or whatever it comes down to be, they can deny me from getting a hip replaced. You know, those are the things that are coming. You know, so please pay attention, and you see how the length of stay is what guides everything, and they don't have to even keep track of it if you're made observation. Good. Any questions, guys? Yes?
Do they call the number on your Medicare card or on your supplement card?
Medicare. There's a phone number on the back, and they'll know. And trust me, when you say that, they're gonna panic. You know, they're gonna run back to the administrator or whoever's the nurse. Hey, the lady in 4 wants us to call the, Medicare because she wants to be admitted, not made observation. And they'll go, make her admit. That's what they'll do. Because no one wants to do that. No one wants to call Medicare, because Medicare is on your side. I tell people, Medicare is like the Department of Transportation. I have a great story if you haven't heard it. Angelo Camerata, he owned Cam's Bar on Center Avenue in Westview. One of the first season ticket holders at Forbes Field. And before he died, if you had a Steeler ticket, his picture was on one of them. So Angelo, at the age of 99, it was snowing. He lives on Swickley Oakmont Road. I live on Rochester. And he went down to the Unimart, because with the snow, he thought, well, I better get bread and milk and get all the stuff. So he comes down, no problem, pulls into the parking lot that wasn't cleared. And he slid into the cement thing in the front. He gets out and sees his wheels bent. So he calls AAA. He goes in, buys his groceries, comes out, there's a cop writing a ticket. And he says, what? And he says, what did he call it? Hazardous drive. Whatever he said, he wrote him a ticket and took his license right there. Says, you're too old to drive. He was 99. So he's furious. He comes to see me. I said, Ange, no problem. The guy still was working the bar. I would see him carry 2 cases of beer up steps like this. 99. The guy's sharp. So I said, all you do, come in the office, I'll fill out the paperwork. He gets his license back. And he says to me, take me to Ross Township Police. I go, why? He goes, I want to see that cop that took my license. So we go in, and the guy's coming back. He goes, got another one. But the point is, Department of Transportation is nice to seniors. They give you every opportunity. They may say stuff like, you know what, hon, stay off the main roads. As long as you can use the back roads, and you have to travel during the day, and they give you a time, preferably like 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock. I don't want you on the road before because too much traffic, after too much traffic. Understand? Understood. And I'm telling you, they're on your side. They definitely take care of you. So my point is that what I've seen with Medicare, 100% of the time, if you have to talk to the rep, that rep feels your pain. And 100% of the time, now that you know this as well, you just tell them, like, hey, I'm down here. Just imagine if you're in my sister's condition. You know, I have heart disease. They made me come down, and they're telling me that they're only making me observation. I don't want to pay co-pays or deductibles. I want admitted to the hospital. Just the fact you know that, Medicare is going to say, let me speak to the nurse. And 100% of the time you get it in. Ooh, man, this must be my girlfriend, guys. I don't know, something's up. Any other questions? Yes?
You indicated there's a matrix on file. Can you readdress that?
Sure.
Can we get a copy of it?
Sure, it's yours. Your physician. you're a physician, but please be careful. I'm gonna warn you about this. Because I had a patient that got it. One of the last things they have to put is prognosis. So there's gonna be a prognosis on you, and you can't let that take you someplace you don't wanna be. You follow me? Yes, your primary care physician, that's your chart, hon. That's yours. So what you wanna do very kindly is just say, do you have anybody in your family that's medical? Nurses or worked in a hospital or something? That's how you do it. You just say, oh, Dr. Jones, can I please have your last note on me? My cousin is a physical therapist and I want him to see. Do it that way, they'll hand you the note, hon, and it's on there. The last line, like I said, is the prognosis, and that scares people sometimes. Because it's all computerized, and nowadays with AI, so if you have lung disease, heart disease, diabetes, it may say 12, 18 months, and you're gonna say, well, why didn't you tell me that? And they're gonna say, oh, that's just a computer, such and so, so and so. But yes, if you have a doctor that's like if he's looking at the computer or she's looking at the computer instead of you, you have a matrix. So if your doctor doesn't write, but actually computes while you're there, you have a matrix. And you're allowed to see it. Try not to do it like I told you, so you'll just get a copy of it. But if you don't see at the bottom, the last thing is prognosis, then you have to be more insistent. Like, hey, I need the full note, and then you go in there and tell them that you want it, and they'll give it to you. Don't cause trouble though. And if you do, just use my name, because they know I'm a troublemaker. Good. Other questions, guys? Good. Sorry I was so late. Thanks for having me. See if I have everything for Jim. I do. That was good. See? I got here in 5 minutes, guys. Every light I caught. There you go, man.